Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. In 1920 in Boston, an Italian man who immigrated to the United States named Charles Ponzi brought the opportunity to get rich for everyone. The Postal Service then used international response coupons, which allowed the mailer to prepay the stamp fee to the recipient of the reply. After World War II, the United States had a very stable monetary value. If you buy response coupons outside the US at the price of the foreign currency sent to the US and then sell them, you will earn about 10% profit. Realizing that he could make a profit, Charles began to look for investors with extremely attractive offers. Invest. I will buy international postage stamps from other countries, then bring it back here to exchange for US stamps, then earn big. You'll get a share of that too. How about 10% per week? Contributing $1 million, then receive 10,000 United States dollars next week. If you don't like to invest anymore, withdraw your original capital intact, still legal, easy money. The opportunity is like heaven. Thousands of people compete to invest. And then when receiving it all is just a scam. The money was no longer there. This hit was so big that people still call similar scams a Ponzi scheme. So who really created the Ponzi model? How big was his trick? Let's find out together in today's video. Ponzi schemes are simply that you need to invest a financial amount from the beginning to receive a percentage interest later, usually on a periodic basis for a certain period of time. It is often confused with another concept called pyramid schemes or pyramid pattern. For this model, participants pay a fee or buy a product to become part of the line and benefit by leading more people to join. The common point of both types of mechanisms is that they are a type of scam but draw very high credibility, need constant cash flow from new investors, and do not actually do business or provide a product or service. As for the pyramid model, it relies heavily on network marketing and requires participants to recruit more people to the system in order to make a profit. From there, each person will receive a commission while the money they had to spend to join the network will be gradually transferred to the top. As for Ponzi, it always approaches victims as a form of investment management service, making participants believe that the profits received are completely legal, while the mastermind is merely taking money from one person to compensate another. The one who really brought this scam model to its fullest was Charles Ponzi. The scam this guy made caused so much damage that 6 banks and investment funds collapsed. Investors lost $20 million, and 100 years later, his name is still mentioned. Charles Ponzi was originally from Parma, Italy. Initially, he claimed to attend the University of Rome, La Sapienza. However, he never completed his studies or earned himself a decent degree. Charles boarded a ship and crossed the Atlantic Ocean to the United States, not for business, but to burn the rest of his money into poker, blackjack, and roulette. Empty, Charles Ponzi worked in all kinds of jobs, from peddling to washing dishes for hire. Also known as a bit of hard work, he has begun to learn English and speak the native language fluently, opening the door to a promotion from dishwasher to the waiter. But imbued with the idea of, do not work but want to eat, he was quickly fired for defrauding customers and stealing. This is not the only time Charles Ponzi has committed crimes. His rogue record grew thicker, especially noted by the police. In 1907, the Canadian police arrested him for forging documents. After serving a 3-year prison sentence, Ponzi immediately jumped into a line to transport illegal immigrants from Italy to the US, so he continued to have to open the schedule for another 2 years. Ponzi returned to Boston and got married. Having a family, he rushes to earn money, legally. He came up with the idea that later became the Yellow Page yearbook to sell advertising to clients, but no one took notice at that time. Continuing to plunge into the search for new business ideas, Ponzi found the light of his life. It came from a letter from a company in Spain offering to discuss his business idea. But his attention was not on the contents of the letter, but on the international IRC response sheet. At that time, the IRC response sheet could be used as a stamp and was accepted by many countries. The Postal Service uses these reply slips to allow the sender to prepay the fee to the recipient. Recipients simply take the slip and exchange it for a stamp at the local post office to send a reply. After World War I, the United States was the only country with a stable currency value compared to gold, while the currencies of European countries depreciated dramatically due to printing a lot to spend on the military. In theory, if you buy IRC in countries outside the US with cheap foreign currency, and bring it back to the US to sell, it's easy money. An IRC buyer from Spain can resell it in the US with a profit of up to 10%. Ponzi decided to mine it on a large scale. But here comes a new problem. Where does the money come from to make capital now? With all the money available, Charles Ponzi began to hire agents to buy cheap international answer sheets in other countries and began to send them to the US to realize the plan. At the same time as a template to send invitations to investors. The type of exchange that Ponzi devised is considered an arbitrage, which is completely legal. So he founded the Securities Exchange Company in Boston, and then called for financial support with words like honey in his ears, promising interest up to 50% within 45 days. A few people have boldly modeled to invest in Ponzi, and are paid interest as originally committed. Strong-handed investors who have been paid interest continue to invite new investors. What's more, successful referrals immediately receive a 10% commission. The good news began to resound, and the money continuously flowed in, along with a strong belief in the investment opportunity given to you, promising that you would never have to think about taking a loss as a profit. By February 1920, Ponzi had $5,000 in hand, equivalent to about $75,000 today. Just a month later, that number was 6. Ponzi hired a series of employees and continued to collect money from other areas such as New England and New Jersey. By September 1920, the amount of capital raised had reached 15 million United States dollars, equivalent to about 225 million United States dollars today. With a huge number of investors, Ponzi became rich, and so did his investors, but on paper. The source of IRC votes in the market is limited, and the need for mailing is not so much to keep the existing stock of votes circulating continuously. Ponzi fell into the situation of holding money but could not continue to invest in the company, because there were no longer IRC tickets to buy. Later, an investigation by journalists Richard Grozier, Eddie Dunn, and Clarence Barron of the Boston Post showed that the average daily conversion value of IRC in the US is only $8, while 27,000 IRCs are circulated on the market. With the amount of Ponzi money he has, he will definitely have to invest and raise 750 million IRC votes or more. Meanwhile, investors are paid monthly cyclical profits with huge interest rates. Therefore, he took the step of 200 IQ, which is to use the investors' own money to pay them huge commissions, giving investors the illusion that they have actually made a profit, while their own money invested by the Ponzi is slowly disappearing. After the Boston Post's investigative documents were published, authorities and auditors immediately stepped in. Checking Ponzi's books, he discovered that he was owed a huge amount of up to 7 million United States dollars, while he admitted that all his assets at that time were only 3 million United States dollars. The play of Charles Ponzi began to emerge. Investors then fell into two states, either cursing Ponzi or cursing themselves for investing in a guy with a lot of criminal records. This incident caused the collapse of 6 banks and investment funds. Ponzi investors get back only 30% of their initial investment. And the Boston Post proudly accepted the Pulitzer Prize for Public Service for Charles Ponzi's series of unmasking multi-level models. In 1920, Ponzi was arrested for failing to prove his ability to repay his debts, facing charges of mail fraud. Ponzi obediently accepted receive a reduced sentence, only to receive a 5-year sentence in federal prison. After 3.5 years, Ponzi was released only to continue to face charges of fraud to appropriate property in Massachusetts, and continue to receive an additional 9 years in prison for being too confident in defending himself. Before the trial in Massachusetts, Ponzi posted bail to be released to Florida to open a small company specializing in selling wetlands, called Charp and Land Syndicate. But it continues to be an attempt to build a new multi-level model, which promises to pay 200% interest in 2 months. And of course, get an extra year in prison. By 1934, Ponzi had completed his prison sentence. He became an agent for the Italian airline Alla Littoria in Brazil, and also wrote his autobiography around this time, recounting the glorious career of the one-time millionaire. In January 1949, Ponzi died in Rio de Janeiro. When he died, he still had a huge fortune of up to $75 US. Just enough to pay for a grand funeral at a cemetery for the poor. Despite having a life of being released from prison for such a crime, Ponzi is still a big name that makes the next generation mention and learn. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.